Think about the earliest memory you have. Maybe it is a birthday cake with candles. Maybe it is a car ride with rain on the window. Maybe it is someone's face leaning close to yours. You hold on to that memory like it is the beginning of you. But here is the strange part. You lived for years before that moment. You breathed. You cried. You laughed. You learned. You experienced more in your first 2 years of life than most adults experience in a decade. And you remember none of it. Not a single second. That is not an accident. That is not a flaw. What is happening inside a baby's brain is one of the most fascinating and counterintuitive stories in all of neuroscience. And once you understand it, you will never look at a small child the same way again. You probably assume that babies cannot form memories because their brains are too undeveloped. Too small. Too new. But that assumption is wrong. Babies are forming memories constantly. From the moment they are born, their brains are recording. Researchers have shown that newborns can recognize their mother's voice within hours of birth, having heard it through the womb. That is memory. A 2-day-old infant can remember the smell of their caregiver. That is memory. A 6-month-old can watch someone perform a simple action and repeat it the following day. That is memory. Babies are not blank slates. They are recording everything. So if babies can form memories, why can you not access any of them? The answer takes you deep inside the architecture of the brain itself. And it starts with a structure you may have heard of before. The hippocampus. This curved, seahorse-shaped region buried in your temporal lobe is the brain's memory consolidation engine. When you experience something and want to remember it later, the hippocampus is what takes that experience and stitches it into your long-term memory. Without a functioning hippocampus, new memories cannot stick. They dissolve the moment they are formed. This is exactly what happens to people with certain kinds of amnesia. The events happen. The experience is real. But nothing gets saved. Here is the problem with babies. The hippocampus is one of the last regions of the brain to fully develop. At birth, it is barely operational. It grows rapidly through infancy and early childhood, but it does not reach functional maturity until somewhere between 3 and 4 years of age. This means that for the first 2 to 3 years of your life, you were experiencing the world without a fully working memory consolidation system. You were living in a present that could never become a past. Every moment, no matter how vivid, no matter how emotionally charged, was being erased almost as soon as it formed. Psychologist Sigmund Freud was actually the first person to formally name this phenomenon. He called it infantile amnesia. But Freud, being Freud, assumed it was caused by psychological repression. He believed the memories were there, locked away behind some mental barrier, hidden because of the emotional intensity of early childhood. He was wrong about the cause. But he was right that something systematic was happening. The forgetting was universal. Every adult human being on Earth shares this same gap. No matter where you were born, no matter what language you speak, no matter how sharp your memory is today, you cannot retrieve memories from your first 2 years of life. That universality alone tells you this is not about individual psychology. It is about biology. What Freud missed, and what modern neuroscience has since confirmed, is that the issue is not storage. It is retrieval architecture. The brain uses different systems for different kinds of memory. There is implicit memory, which stores habits, skills, and emotional associations. And there is explicit memory, which stores facts, events, and experiences you can consciously recall. Babies are running almost entirely on implicit memory. They are learning. They are adapting. They are developing preferences and fears and attachment patterns. But none of that is being filed in the explicit memory system that adult consciousness draws from when you try to remember something. Neuroscientist Patricia Goldman-Rakic spent decades studying the development of the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive command center. Her research revealed that this region, which is essential for conscious memory retrieval, is extraordinarily slow to mature. It continues developing well into your mid-20s. But its early-stage immaturity in infancy is particularly relevant here, Because without the prefrontal cortex online and working in coordination with the hippocampus, memories cannot be organized and retrieved in the way you experience when you consciously remember something. The filing system exists, but the index has not been built yet. There is another layer to this that researchers only began to fully appreciate in the last 2 decades. Language. You think in words. When you retrieve a memory, you narrate it. You describe it to yourself, even silently. Memory and language are deeply entangled in the adult brain. But babies do not have language. They experience the world in a preverbal state, in raw sensation and emotion and pattern, without the verbal scaffolding that adult memory relies on. When researchers like Robin Fivish at Emory University studied how children begin to form autobiographical memories, they found that the emergence of narrative ability, the ability to tell yourself a story about your own life, is directly linked to the age at which stable long-term memories begin to form. You cannot remember what you cannot narrate. And you cannot narrate before you can speak. This is why your earliest retrievable memories almost always come from somewhere between ages 2.5 and 4. That is the window when language, hippocampal development, and prefrontal connectivity begin to converge for the first time. The fog does not lift all at once. It thins gradually. Your first memories are often fragmentary, just a flash of color, a feeling, a face without context. And then slowly, across the preschool years, continuity begins. The story of you starts to take shape. But here is the part that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. Even though you cannot retrieve those early memories consciously, they did not disappear without leaving a mark. The implicit memory system was running the entire time. Every experience you had in those first years was shaping your emotional responses, your attachment style, your baseline sense of safety or threat in the world. The child who was held consistently when they cried developed a nervous system that learned the world is responsive. The child who was left to cry alone developed a nervous system that learned the world is not. Neither of those children consciously remembers those early experiences. But both of them are living the consequences every day. Developmental psychologist John Bowlby built his entire theory of attachment around this idea. He argued that the emotional templates formed in infancy, before conscious memory exists, become the invisible operating system for all future relationships. You do not remember learning to trust or not trust. You do not remember the moment your sense of self first began to form. But those lessons are in you. They are running beneath the surface of everything you feel and do. The memories you cannot access are, in many ways, the most powerful memories you have. There is something almost poetic about this. The period of your life that shaped you most profoundly is the one you are completely locked out of. You cannot visit it. You cannot revise it. You cannot even verify it. All you have is its echo in your body, in your instincts, in the way you reach toward people or pull away from them, in the way certain sounds or smells land on you with an emotional weight you cannot explain. Think about why a grown adult finds certain environments inexplicably comforting. The specific smell of a kitchen. The texture of a blanket. The quality of afternoon light in a particular season. You might dismiss those as random preferences. But they are not random. They are signals from a time you cannot remember, sent forward into a life you are fully conscious of. Your nervous system kept the receipts even when your hippocampus could not. And here is the final twist. As your own brain matures, as you move through childhood and adolescence and into adulthood, the very process of neural development that finally gives you a working memory system also overwrites the early traces that existed before it. Researchers call this childhood amnesia not just a failure to store memories, but an active process of neural reorganization. The rapid growth of new neurons in the hippocampus during early childhood, a process called neurogenesis, actually disrupts previously stored memory traces. The brain is growing so fast, building so many new connections so quickly, that early memories are not just incompletely formed. They are actively displaced by the architecture being built on top of them. You are not missing those memories because nothing important was happening. You are missing them because something extraordinary was happening. Your brain was building itself. And the construction was so intensive, so total, so consuming that there was no stable ground yet for memories to stand on. So the next time you see a very small child